What is up, guys? This is going to be my review of Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, Episode 5, titled Return of the Mack. So this episode was incredible. It's one of the best Legends of Tomorrow episodes ever. Just going off the title, synopsis, and trailer, I thought going into this episode that it was going to be just another fiction anachronism episode, but holy shit was I wrong. This episode was probably the most story-driven episode of Legends of Tomorrow ever, and I love story. Legends of Tomorrow has a lot of episodes with no story in it, like episode 2 and 4 this season, and those episodes are definitely low points of the season for me. I just love story. That's what I watch TV shows for, the story and everything else. The weekly things aren't that interesting most of the time, like a weekly villain thing. That's not really interesting. It's just one episode thing. But when you're building up a story for the whole season, that is the most interesting part of everything, and this episode does it so well. The beginning of the episode had a horror vibe to it, and it definitely worked. I got spooked a couple times, but that was the least interesting part of this episode. The first 30 minutes of this episode were a little slow, but still pretty damn good. It dealt with a couple different storylines that this season has had so far, like the Vixen Zari storyline, where they're connected, which I find very interesting. I hope what happens is that Vixen with the spirit totem, Zari with the wind totem, Kwasi with the water totem, and then two other people with the earth and fire totem meet somewhere and have a huge epic fight, and that just sounds awesome to me. It also dealt with the storyline of the breaking up of Firestorm, which isn't exactly the most interesting storyline ever, but it's definitely necessary, and honestly, I cannot wait till it's over. I know that sounds a little mean, but it's not interesting at all. I actually want Martin Stein to leave Legends Tomorrow now, and I'm glad he is, because it just makes so much sense that he's going to be a grandfather, and I just really want him to go be a grandfather. I don't want him to be in the show anymore. I like his character, but right now he's not doing anything. They haven't. Well, just think about this. When was the last time Firestormed up and Steel? This episode definitely tried its best to cover up the fact that they don't have a big budget, but Firestorm and Steel, for some reason, Steel just stayed back on the ship, and Firestorm stayed back on the ship. Neither of them went into the big fight at the end, and that's really frustrating sometimes. They could at least try to explain why Firestorm and Steel rarely ever suit up and go out to the field, because they have such a low CGI budget. There's really nothing I could pinpoint in this episode and say, yeah, that was a great part, that was a great part, that was a great part. It's really just, in general, this episode was so story-driven, and it was intense. But the building up of Mallus is the best part of this episode by far. I had no idea that. I thought the main villain of this season was going to be Damien darhk, which would have been a little underwhelming, not going to lie, because we've already seen him be the main villain twice. First on Arrow, and then on Legends of Tomorrow, where he was the almost main villain. So I really didn't want to see him be the main villain again. So I'm glad that Mallus is the main villain instead. Honestly, I have a slight clue about who Mallus is, but I'm gonna save that for a different video, because that could be like a whole 4-minute video alone. I'm just gonna say that in this episode, Mallus is just a very intriguing villain. I can't wait to see what they do with that villain. Really, the greatest thing about this episode is the story. The story is so good that it makes all the bad things this episode did, like the boring parts, the parts where that stretched on for a little too long, it makes them go away, because just thinking about it, all I can remember is the main story, because that main story was so good. So in conclusion, the main story of this episode was great. The CGI, the fact that Firestorm and Steel, or Citizen Steel, never went out to the field this episode was a little frustrating, but everything else about it was great. It was funny at times, especially Heatwave. Heatwave made me laugh a couple times this episode. It was a little spooky in the beginning, which was really cool, and then it transitioned into something bigger, something crazy, which is so exciting. So I give this episode a 9.7 out of 10. Let me know what you think about the episode in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and vote on the top corner of the video what you think about the episode. Thanks for watching.